So a lot of times we find ourselves chewing over same thought that keeps popping up in our mind over and over and over again, and we seem to have no control. And not that these thoughts are only negative, but most of them are useless, right? So how do we gain control over our thoughts? That's what I'm about to discuss in this video. Coming up. Hey, welcome back again. It's Alex with you, bringing you tips to improve your confidence, your happiness, and your peace of mind. So if you're new and you don't want to miss out on weekly updates and content like this, consider subscribing. So before I start out right now, what I want to do is actually bring you over to my computer and show you something. All right, so this is a photograph showing you the power of focus, and you can try these experiments on your own and just to prove for yourself that this is true, right? So if you get a magnifying glass, right, and just place it under the sun, what happens is that it will gather the rays of the sun and then focus it to a specific direction. All right, and as you can see here, it's so intense that it could start a fire. Now this is to show you the power of energy when focused. Why am I showing you this? So I want you to keep this at the back of your mind. For what happens is when we think at random, our thoughts have no power. Just like the sun, without you bringing a magnifying glass to gather the rays of the sun, to gather the power of the sun, you can hardly tell that it has any power, right? Because most times causes heat, but it doesn't really burn you, right? But what happens when it's been focused is that it becomes more powerful. Its power becomes magnified, right? And just as you can see, it becomes so intense to the point that you can actually start a fire. Now, why am I telling you this? Is because, when we think at random, our thoughts have no power, and because it has no power, it cannot generate the amount of energy that it requires to match our reality, match that reality that we are craving for, right? To create and manifest your desires, you have to first develop your own energy, and you do this through focus. That's what this video is all about, because I'm actually going to lay out 3 simple ways that you can learn to focus your thoughts and learn to think more focused. Now, step number 1 to being in control of your thought is that you want to have a burning desire. Now, without a burning desire, it's hard to control your thought. It's hard to control your frame of mind, because your mind just goes at random, right? There's nothing serious to keep it engaged. Now, when you have a burning desire, you become more engaged with your thought. You tend to think more creative. You tend to think more creatively, and not just thinking more creatively, but you tend to control your thought, because you know what you want, and you know what you don't want, and then you can focus on what you want. Having a burning desire is the most critical part of this, because if you're going to achieve anything at all in life, it has to start with desire. If you don't want it badly, if you don't want it that bad, you may never have it, right? It's just the way life is designed. We don't get what we want, we get who we are. Now, step number 2 of the process is, after having that burning desire, if you really want to control your mind, if you really want to control your destiny, if you really want to control your thoughts, after forming that burning desire, what you want to do next is focus your energy on that object. Focus your energy on that thing that you want. Now, what I mean by that is, when you're serious about something, what do you do about it? You tend to think more about it. You tend to be passionate about it. You tend to be serious about it, to the point that it just consumes your mind, right? And that's the point you want to get. If you really want to control your thoughts, then have that burning desire. Have something that you're going after in life. A lot of persons have no burning desire. They have no desire, and as a result of that, they just accept. They just go with life. They just go wherever life pushes them, right? They aren't focused. They have no direction where they are going. Now, step number 3 of the process, and this is one of the reasons why most of us suffer in life actually, is because life tricks us sometimes, to the point that we don't learn to ignore the things that we don't want. So what happens is this: when something bad is happening in our life, we tend to think about those things that are happening. We tend to think about the problems we're having the most, right? So for example, if we're having problems in our relationship, for example, what we do is we think about the problems happening in our relationship, right? We think about, how she's been acting up, or how he's been acting up, or how he's not being as loving as he used to be, or how she's not being as loving as she used to be. But we always tend to think about the problem that we're experiencing. Now, what happens is, because we don't learn to block out the things that we don't want, to ignore things that we don't want, and most times, most of the things that happen in our life are things that we don't want, right? So we must get to the point where we know what we want and we know what we don't want, and then when things happen that we don't want these things, we can actually block them out, instead of doing the direct opposite, instead of allowing it to enter our minds and influence our mind. And then we start thinking about it, we start reflecting about it, we start living it over and over again in our mind, as if it's still happening or it's already happening, even though these things are in the past. Right? Now, what we don't notice is this: where your mind goes, energy flows. So the more you're constantly thinking about these things that are happening that you don't want, the more you're creating it. Now, whatever you focus upon, you attract into your life. This is a natural law. All right, you must have heard this before, but if you haven't heard this before, please know these are my 3 steps for being in control of your mind, being in control of your thoughts. And these steps are quite simple. Don't make it seem too complex. Just follow these 3 steps. Number 1, you want to have a burning desire, something to keep you engaged, something you can focus your mind and think about. How would it feel like if this goal was actually fulfilled, right? And then step number 2, you want to focus your energy. You want to think about it more. You want to, affirm it to yourself. So imagine, if you wanted to be happy, what would your actions be like if you're actually a happy person? Start emulating that character. You won't start acting as if you're already happy. So you may not be happy. It's the principle of fake it until you make it, right? You may not be happy, but you imagine, what would my character, what would my actions be like? How would I act if I was actually a happy person, right? And then think of it, imagine it, and then start acting like that, right? So this is when you start acting like that, you start creating that vibration of energy within you that attracts more experiences to you, that makes you experience happiness, right? That's how it is. And then finally, you want to learn to block out things that are not related to the things you want. And this does require some work, because you have to pay attention to the things going on in your head, so you don't get caught up with all these random negative thoughts. You want to pay maximum attention to your mind, to the things going on in your mind. Forget about what's happening around you. Forget about what's happening in your environment. Just focus on your state of mind, right? Be in the moment. Know what you're always thinking now. Know where your mind is going now. Whenever you find yourself caught up in your thoughts, just bring yourself back and focus in the present moment. Be grateful for what you have now in your life, and whatever that's happening that's not what you want, just let them unfold naturally. Okay? If you can't change something, if you can't force something, if you can't change something, then there's no need trying to force it, or you worried about it, right? Because you can't change it. If you could change it, you probably have changed it already, right? So what happens is, if you find yourself in situations where you don't want this, or you're not comfortable with this, just let it unfold, right? And as it unfolds, learn from it. It's happening because you've created it. That's the truth. But you want to learn from it, so you can control its future occurrence. All right. So basically, that's the tips for you to start learning how to control your thoughts, and I hope it helps you. And if it did, just let me know. Give me a like button. Let me know in the comment section below if it helped you. Also, don't forget to subscribe for weekly updates and content just like this. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you again. Now, before I go, question of the day: what is the biggest challenge you find yourself facing every time you try to just stay focused, every time you try to control your thoughts, right? Post your answer in the comment section below, and I'll see you again.